All work and no play makes Logan a dull boy. What's going on, friends? Logan Myerz here for Cinephellas.com. Tonight I'm going to be talking about one of my most anticipated films of the year. I'm talking about Mike Flanagan's Dr. Sleep. So Dr. Sleep is a sequel to The Shining. Stephen King wrote the book. I actually have not read the book, but after seeing this film, I'm definitely going to be checking that out because the story and these characters in this movie are so fucking phenomenal. Because all the characters and the story I absolutely loved in this film. And seeing Dan Torrance and a lot of the familiar characters and set pieces from the original Shining that came out in 1980 are recreated in this film. To start off, I want to say Mike Flanagan is definitely becoming one of my new favorite directors. Everything he's put out has been phenomenal, and I just love his storytelling. The way he edits his films, the color schemes. Mike Flanagan's really great directing in The Haunting of Hill House, Oculus, Gerald's Game, you know, the list goes on and on. He's a really great director, so I was interested to see his take on this source material being Dr. Sleep, written by Stephen King, and then trying to follow up with Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, and probably one of the greatest horror flicks of all time, obviously. Stanley Kubrick's magnum opus, starring Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance. You know, you had a young Dan Torrance and Wendy, and them trying to escape Jack. And I don't want to get into The Shining. You guys have seen it, but definitely one of my favorite films of all time, and I just love revisiting it every year during the Halloween season. So I love how Dr. Sleep came out right after Halloween because it fits in perfectly. It's kind of a continuation of The Shining. We're picking up with Dan Torrance, played by Ewan McGregor. You know, it's years later after the traumatic experience he had at the Overlook Hotel. He's trying to cope with life. He's much like his father, Jack Torrance. He's an alcoholic. Something really tragic happens, and it really makes him clean up his act. So he's on the go, and he ends up in this little town, and he comes across a small girl named Abra and finds out that she also has the shine. And it's a really great scene in the movie. You could see in the trailer how she's talking about the magic. And he's like, no, I call it The Shining. Probably one of the best performances in the film. She's played by Kylie Curran. Definitely a really great child actress, not one that gets annoying. She's really compelling in the story, and she's very powerful. With that being said, it sets up the villains in the film. Probably one of my favorite villains of the year. I mean, she's that great in this film. Like, I was surprised how much screen time that she had. And the way she plays Rose of the Hat, it's like very seductive. She like seduces people, like has a very soothing voice, but at the same time she's super evil. And essentially they seek out people that have the Shining, kids, and they inhale the steam, they call it. So they basically like stab or hurt a kid, and when they're in pain, they produce steam that comes out of their mouth and stuff like that, and they inhale it, and it makes these people immortal. And that's pretty much their setup. And throughout the film, they go into all these different cities, different states, seeking out young kids, because essentially they're like child murderers, and they're killing anybody with these powers. But what I absolutely loved about this film was the storytelling, the way that they crafted these characters, the dialogue, the stories, the things they're going through, the inner turmoil, especially with Danny coping and dealing with things, you know, so many years later, him trying to overcome alcoholism and going to AA and just cleaning up and being a better person. And I loved how they wrote his character. And I was a little worried about Ewan McGregor playing Dan Torrance because I just didn't think he looked like him, you know, being a young kid. But he really pulls off this performance, and he goes to some really dark places throughout the film, and you can see what he's going through and working with this young girl. And then in this film, of course, they're going to revisit the Overlook Hotel. There's a lot of great callbacks, you know, to The Shining, obviously, and seeing Danny and Wendy after the events of The Shining. It was cool, you know, having you know, different actors play Wendy and young Danny, but it still felt like in the realm of The Shining. And in this film, I liked how an older Dan Torrance and a younger Dan Torrance, like when they kind of do flashbacks to when he was a kid, he was still talking to Dick Halloran. It's played by a different actor now because obviously the original actor passed away. It wasn't just like an impersonation. It actually felt like it was the same character, just looks a little different. The voice sounded like exactly like the original character. And I like how he's guiding Danny throughout the film. And leading up until the end, I know a lot of people are excited just from seeing the trailer. They're going to be returning to the Overlook Hotel, and obviously they do. The last act of the film, I think the last like 40 minutes, they return, and that's where shit really does hit the fan. But I don't want to go into too much detail or spoil anything for all the true fans of the original Shining, but there are some familiar faces, as you can imagine, when they get into the hotel, and them coming across Rose of the Hat, she kind of tracks them down, and the ultimate battle, and Danny's walking through the halls of the Overlook Hotel, and just the set pieces, the way they recreated the Overlook Hotel from The Shining, Stanley Kubrick's, it was so meticulous, just everything about it, and I love that so much, like the way they recreated this set for the Overlook Hotel. It was like spot on. And that was one thing that just like blew me away, how much time and effort they put into everything. You know, turning down the hall, the room 237, you see the lady in the bathtub pulling back the curtain, other familiar ghosts that we saw in the original film. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie that I didn't think they would go to was Danny going up to the infamous bar his dad went to, and obviously coming across, you know, the twins at the end of the hallway, you know, all the really cool scenes from the original Shining, they paid homage to, and they recreated the set to look exactly like that movie. Like, it still felt a continuation from The Shining. It was just like a different color scheme. So Dr. Sleep is one of my most anticipated films of the year, and I had an absolute blast of this movie. I was totally involved and wrapped up in the story and these characters. It's 2.5 hours long, and we got the introduction of Abra, Kylie Curran, the young girl in the movie that has these powers, and she also has the shine, and which was a really great counterpart to Ewan McGregor's. Rebecca Ferguson is definitely one of the best villains of the year. She was so fucking good in this movie. I haven't seen her in anything else. I was looking her up on IMDb, but this is the first time I've seen her on screen, and she was top-notch, and she was seductive, and she was also evil at the same time, tracking down young kids and essentially killing them. She also had a really cool like magician hat and like hippie look to her, and it really worked. There's just something about her that was very unsettling and you know, soothing at the same time. You learn so much about them throughout the film too. You like, even as a villain, what she's about, what she's on the hunt for, why they're doing it, you know, just answers a lot of questions, and you get a lot of screen time with them, and that's what I absolutely love about it. It's a great time revisiting the Overlook Hotel with all the aerial shots, like the original film, and you know, like the lake and the mountains and things like that. Was really well done. Mike Flanagan is so good with the camera, the way he directs. He is one of the best in the business for sure. Criminally underrated director. Hopefully a lot of people pay attention to this guy and go see this film. So overall, I'm going to give Mike Flanagan's Dr. Sleep a 4.5 out of 5 Dan Torrance hair pieces. So what did you guys think of Dr. Sleep? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What did you guys think of Danny returning to the Overlook Hotel? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe. This is Logan Myerz signing out from the Overlook Hotel. Until the next movie review. Cheers!